Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this series, Understanding and Addressing Vaccine Hesitancy in the Muslim Community from an Islamic Perspective. Inshallah, in this episode we will be looking at some of the concerns that some have raised, some of the claims that the vaccination actually makes things worse, that vaccination is responsible for infertility and a form of population control. That some look at it as it has the capability of making worse the health conditions of people with underlying health challenges. I'm your host, Muhammad Nuruddin Lemu, and with me to discuss today's topics are two of our distinguished visitors, Brother Muhammad Al-Hassan, who comes with a microbiology background. You're most welcome. And another science background from our sister Bilkis Garba Ibrahim. You are both most welcome. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Thank you.
I'd like to start with the claim, Brother Al-Hassan, that some have actually raised that the vaccine is actually a cause of problems. It actually causes diseases. It's not a cure. At least that's been in the experience of some people who all they know is their child got sick or somebody else has got terrible reaction and probably even died. How would you respond to this?
Thank you very much. I think in responding to this, I may wish to probably first begin to say where did this person got his information from? How did he know it is true? What is the credibility of the information, and which other evidences are available that are probably more credible than this? According to experts on vaccines and viruses, vaccine does not cause more diseases or illnesses to our body. And some of these experts include World Health Organization, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Islamic Medical Association of Malaysia, Islamic Medical Association and Network of Indonesia, British Islamic Medical Association, and the Federation of Islamic Medical Associations. Part of the outcome of the stress that the body feels sometimes when somebody takes vaccine is just similar to the kind of stress that the body feels sometimes when you also take medication. And virtually most of the producers of vaccines are actually the producers of most of the drugs we take day in, day out. And when you buy the drugs on the counter and you check, you will see usually there will be what they will call the side effects. So each drug you take has a side effect. And the reason why these side effects happen is because by the time you have taken the medication or by the time the vaccine has gotten into the system, it's engaged in certain form of activities. It's engaged in interacting with the immune system, which sometimes puts some form of pressure on the immune system, and which is the result of some of the side effects that we have sometimes, maybe from light headache, fever, and others. I would want people to think of a vaccine like a fire drill. Just like a fire drill teaches people how to respond to fire without danger, the vaccine trains the immune system on how to recognize and fight pathogens by the time they affect the system, basically.
You've mentioned that there are side effects. So sometimes what people are calling harm that was caused by a vaccine is actually the side effect. While it does confer immunity, side effects, I guess, with some medicines are natural. Sister Bilkis, what would you add to this?
Okay, if we are to simply explain this, what the scientists actually do with vaccines, how the vaccines are prepared, the scientists take a weak part of the virus which causes infection and introduce it to the body. When they introduce it to the body, it allows the cells to recognize the virus when they see it or when the body gets infected in the future. So it allows it to be aware of the virus so that it could protect the body from having severity of the illness. Also, we shouldn't forget our legal maxims of Islamic jurisprudence. يُزَالُ الضَّرَرُ الْأَشَدُّ بِالضَّرَرِ الْأَخَفُّ. That is, a greater harm may be eliminated using a lesser harm. So that means if we are faced with two harms or two evils, if we are to choose between two harms, we should go with the lesser one. So in the context of vaccine, if we are to compare vaccination and actually getting infected with the disease, just the way Brother Al-Hassan said regarding the side effects of vaccine, it is better to be vaccinated and tolerate these mild side effects such as headache, fever, and the rest, than actually not being vaccinated and having severity of the illness which could cause death. If we are to simply explain this, what the scientist normally does with vaccine is that they take the weakened part of the virus, which is too weak to cause infection, and introduce it into the body. When they introduce it into the body, it allows the cells to familiarize itself with that virus so that it will tend to recognize the virus when the body gets infected with that virus in the future. We shouldn't forget our legal maxims of Islamic jurisprudence, which states, Yuzalu dararul ashaddu bi dararul akhaf. That is, a higher harm may be eliminated using a lesser harm. So what this actually means is that when we are faced with two harms or two evils, we should go for the lesser one. So in the context of vaccine here, it is better for someone to be vaccinated and tolerate these mild side effects such as fever, headache, diarrhea, and the rest, than actually allowing the person to be infected with these viruses, which could lead to severity of the illness or even passing the illness to another person who already has an underlying illness which could cause death of the person. Wallahu alam.
Jazakillahu khairan. And I think this issue of, yes, there's harm with some people of side effects from the vaccine. Sometimes what you also find is even without the vaccine, this person was going to get sick anyway. But because it coincided with the time of the vaccine and the next illness that hit the child was something that was severe, it's associated with the vaccine. So sometimes it just happens to have coincided. But however severe and difficult a side effect is, it's always worth remembering it's still the side effect. It wasn't the intended cause. The intended purpose. The main effect was to confer immunity. Unfortunately, some people have very severe side effects compared to others, and a private harm may be tolerated if it would prevent a greater, more public harm. And so things are very often done in the interest of the common good, in the interest of the general public, in the interest of the greater good. And as you've said, in Islamic jurisprudence, a lesser evil, like prohibiting people from going for Hajj, for example, may be permissible and even necessary, even obligatory, if it would prevent a greater harm, like a greater percent of people dying. Because sometimes it's not just healthy people that make up the world. The world is made up of children, of babies, of people who are already sicklers or already having some other underlying health conditions that we should be conscious of. Still with you, Sister Bilqis, another claim is that vaccines are used to control populations, that vaccines are meant to sterilize a community, cause infertility, barrenness in women, and that this is an objective of some form of group behind the manufacturing of vaccines. And so for some, they won't take vaccines because that's the channel that some company or group are going to be using to control their population. How would you respond to that allegation?
It is actually a very funny one, because if these people that produce these vaccines actually wanted to regulate the economy, if these people actually wanted to control the economy, they will have done so in a very long, because it is the same people that produce our normal medications, our paracetamols and antibiotics that still produce these vaccines. So there have been claims regarding the fact that vaccination and getting vaccine causes infertility, but there has not been any proof for that very evidence. There has not been proof to say that, yes, this is actually true regarding this claim. There was a claim going about the internet regarding a German epidemiologist who, during the COVID time, that the COVID vaccine produces a form of antibody into the blood, into the body. The antibody is anti-synctin antibodies. It is a form of naturally producing protein antibody. So the claim was that it could cause infertility, but despite that, there has not been enough evidence to prove that. Also, we shouldn't forget our legal maxim. We should keep on reiterating it, that al-yaqin la yuzalu bi-shak, that is, certainty cannot be overruled by doubt. For the fact that we have certain and credible information regarding vaccine, it cannot be overruled by mere speculations of people. Wallahu alam.
So I think just, along the same lines, in another episode, we discussed these questions where you should always ask yourself, where is this information coming from? Who is behind it? What's the authority? When did that person become authority? And especially, when did that source of information become more authoritative than all these Islamic medical associations that have said these HPV and the Mpox and all the COVID vaccines do not cause sterility? We look at populations of countries that have all gone through the vaccination. Their population is not decreasing as a result of these. And as you said, the need to respect our religious instructions. As you said, al-yaqin la yazulu bi-shak, the certainty is not overruled by doubt. We don't throw away something that has greater evidence, something that comes from a more respected group of authorities like these medical associations, World Health Organization, Centers of Disease Control, and we throw what they say because somebody is creating doubt in our minds. Malam Al-Hassan, what would you add to this?
So thank you very much, Alhamdulillah. So I think I will just want to add to what you have said and my sister, Sister Bilqis. Alhamdulillah, a Muslim's decision should always be guided by evidence and proof. And Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the glorious Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu jtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann, inna ba'da adh-dhanni ithmu. That all you who believe, avoid suspicions or assumptions, for some suspicions are sins. And the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said on the authority of Abu Huraira, beware of suspicions, for suspicion is the worst of tales. This is hadith found in Bukhari 6064.
So when we look at all you have said on suspicion, I think a lot of what happens today is people get forwarded a social media clip and they forward it. And it reminds one of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, it is enough to make you a liar that you keep repeating all you hear. And some of what's going on today is you hear something, you didn't verify it, you send it to somebody, but because the person trusts you, they just assume that you consider it true, and before you know it, you've created a new belief from just noise that's available online. Another question that I'd like us to look at is, or claim made by some, is that people with underlying conditions are hurt by vaccines, that the vaccines actually make the health condition worse for people who are already struggling with underlying conditions. What would you say to that claim?
All right, so Alhamdulillah, I think we'll just be to refer back again to questions for verifications, and is to ask where do you get that information from, how do you know it is true, how credible is the information, is the evidence, and which other evidence is available that is more credible. Alhamdulillah, I think underlying conditions are ongoing chronic or long-time medical conditions that need some form of medical support continuously. Sometimes these kind of conditions are for life, and these include like arthritis, like asthma, cancer, diabetes, and all of these are medical conditions that needs continuous support that people a lot of the time have to manage to the end of time. When one have a weakened immune system, he becomes more vulnerable to other disease. An example of such sometimes is like when somebody has an HIV, he is at a higher risk of getting HPV. When one has a respiratory disease, he is also at a higher risk of getting a COVID-19 disease. And so experts have advised that especially people with this kind of underlying condition, they especially require specific kind of vaccines in order to boost their immune system. However, sometimes when you meet people who have immunocompromised system, or people with immunocompromised individuals, basically, what is recommended by professionals is that before they proceed to take any vaccine, they should ask for advice as to what kind of vaccine to take, and the medical and the physician would advise them on what is best and which kind of vaccine is actually best for them to take, basically.
So what you're saying basically is, for those with underlying conditions, ask the experts again. But the fact that you have underlying conditions probably puts you at a greater risk if you don't take the vaccine. Mr. Bilkis, what would you add to this?
All the same, despite all these claims regarding the underlying condition of a person worsening after taking a vaccine, the vaccine is still effective and it is safe for all. The only thing that needs to be done is, if you are having an underlying condition, you should seek the help, or you should talk to your health provider regarding the vaccines that are safe for you to take. Wallahu alam.
And I think for HPV and some of these vaccines, it's been made clear that the nature of the medicine does not interfere with other aspects of our health. It strengthens the immune system of people with underlying conditions. However, as you've mentioned, sometimes what you should even be more afraid of is what the side effect of some of these medications would be. And so it's always advisable, if you have a serious underlying condition, number one, recognize that you are probably a person at higher risk of the disease that people are being vaccinated for. And you probably need the vaccine more than other people. And that's why I think as soon as COVID vaccine came, the priority was to look for those who already were at risk of a full-blown attack of the COVID virus. However, as with all medications, the need to consult if in doubt. I'd like to thank you both for your contribution to this subject area. And as you keep on saying every time, to remember, when anybody says anything, where do you get your information from? How do you know it's true? What's the credibility of that source? And is your alternative source of information more credible than those of the major long-standing agencies and institutions that have regulated our medications and drugs over the decades? Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you, Brother Al-Hassan. Thank you, Sister Bilkis. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم